Karen blocked my barn with her Porsche, so I flattened it with my farm harvester on camera. The sun was barely up, painting the Iowa sky in streaks of pink and gold, when I first saw the Porsche. It sat there, smug and gleaming, right in front of my barn door, blocking the only way to get my harvester out. My name's Jack Hensley, and I've been farming these 200 acres since I was old enough to grip a plow. Never in my 42 years had I seen anything as out of place as that cherry red sports car on my gravel drive. I rubbed my eyes, half expecting it to vanish like some city slicker mirage. No such luck. The car was real, its tires sinking slightly into the dirt, as if it had been parked there just to spite me. I had a field of corn waiting to be harvested, a buyer lined up, and a tight deadline before the weather turned. Every minute that harvester stayed trapped in the barn was money bleeding out of my pocket. I scanned the horizon for the driver. Nobody. Just endless rows of corn swaying in the breeze and the distant hum of Highway 30. I circled the car, noting the custom plates. Karen for you. Figures. I knocked on the tinted windows, called out a few times, even checked the ditch in case someone had stumbled off drunk. Nothing. That's when I saw her. She was striding across my field, trampling my corn like it was a red carpet, phone glued to her ear. She wore a white pantsuit that screamed boardroom, not barnyard, and her blonde hair was pulled into a bun so tight it looked like it was holding her face together. "Hey," I shouted, waving my arms. "You parked in front of my barn." She held up a finger, mouthing 1 second without breaking her conversation. "No, Tiffany," I said, "emerald cut, not marquise. Do I have to do everything myself?" I stood there, jaw clenched, as she yammered on about diamonds and dinner reservations. Finally, she hung up and turned to me, her smile as fake as her tan. "Can I help you?" she asked, like I was the one trespassing. "Your car," I said, pointing at the Porsche. "It's blocking my barn. I need to get my harvester out." "Oh, that." She waved a manicured hand. "I'm Karen Whitmore, regional manager for Lux Properties. I'm scouting locations for a new development. This area is perfect for a gated community, don't you think?" I blinked. "This is my farm. It's not for sale." Her laugh was sharp, like glass breaking. "Everything's for sale, Mr. Hensley, and you need to move your car. Now." Karen sighed, like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum. "I'm in the middle of something. I'll move it when I'm done." She pulled out her phone again, already dialing. I felt my blood simmer. "Lady, I've got a harvest to finish. You're costing me time and money." She didn't even look up. "I'm sure you'll survive. Farmers are resilient, right?" That was it. I stormed back to the house, grabbed my old camcorder from the attic, and set it up on a tripod facing the barn. If this woman thought she could waltz onto my land and treat me like dirt, she was about to learn a lesson. I climbed into my harvester, a beast of a machine with blades that could chew through steel, and fired it up. The engine roared, shaking the ground. Karen finally noticed. She dropped her phone mid-call and sprinted toward the barn, waving her arms like a stranded runway model. "What are you doing? That's a $200,000 car. Should have moved it," I shouted over the engine. I eased the harvester forward, the blades inching toward her Porsche. The camera was rolling, capturing every second. "Stop," she shrieked, throwing herself in front of the car. "You're insane." I cut the engine and leaned out the cab. "Move the car, or I flatten it. Your choice." Her face twisted into something ugly, part rage, part disbelief. "You wouldn't dare. I'll sue you into the ground." "Try me," I said, revving the engine for emphasis. For a moment, we were locked in a standoff, her glaring up at me staring down from the harvester. Then, to my surprise, she burst into tears. Not delicate sobs, but big, messy wails, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Please," she choked out. "That car is all I have left. My husband, he left me last week. Took everything. The house, the savings, even my dog. I bought that Porsche to feel something." I hesitated. The anger in my chest flickered, replaced by a pang of something I didn't want to name. Pity, maybe. Or guilt. I'd been so focused on my own problems, bills piling up, the bank breathing down my neck, I hadn't considered hers. "All right," I said, softer now. "Just move it, and we're square." She nodded, sniffling, and fished her keys from her purse. As she climbed into the Porsche, I climbed down from the harvester, figuring the crisis was over. That's when I heard the engine scream. The Porsche lurched forward, not backward, slamming into the barn door with a sickening crunch. with splintered metal groaned, and the car's front end crumpled like tinfoil. Karen stumbled out, unscathed but shaking, staring at the wreckage in horror. "What the hell?" I yelled, running over. Didn't mean to," she stammered. "I hit the gas instead of reverse." I threw my hands up. "You just wrecked my barn and your car." She sank to her knees, sobbing again. "I'm ruined. I can't afford this. I can't afford anything." I should have been furious. My barn was damaged, my schedule was shot, and this woman was a walking disaster. But something about her breakdown hit me hard. Maybe it was the way she clutched her keys like they were a lifeline. Maybe it was the memory of my own dark days, when I'd lost my wife to cancer and nearly lost the farm to grief. "Get up," I said, offering a hand. "We'll figure this out." She looked at me, eyes wide, like she couldn't believe I wasn't screaming or calling the cops. Slowly, she took my hand and stood. That's when old man Tucker appeared, hobbling up the drive with his cane. Tucker was my neighbor, a wiry 80-year-old who'd been farming longer than I'd been alive. He wasn't just a neighbor, was a legend, the kind of guy who'd once chased off a developer with a shotgun and a grin. Nobody knew how he always showed up at the exact right moment. But there he was, squinting at the wreckage. "Jack, you all right?" he rasped, then turned to Karen. "And who's this city gal causing all the ruckus?" I gave him the short version. Tucker listened, chewing his tobacco, then spat into the dirt. "Well, Missy," he said to Karen, "you picked the wrong farm to mess with. But Jack here's too soft to leave you in the ditch. Ain't that right, Jack?" I rolled my eyes. "Something like that." Tucker cackled, then pointed at the camcorder, still recording. "You planning to make her famous?" I'd forgotten about the camera. The whole scene, Karen's tantrum, the standoff, the crash was on tape. Part of me wanted to post it online, let the world laugh at her expense. But another part, the one that remembered how it felt to hit rock bottom, wasn't so sure. "Help me get this mess cleared," I said to Tucker. "And Karen, you're pitching in." She nodded, still shell-shocked, and we spent the next hour hauling debris and towing her wrecked Porsche to the side. Tucker kept up a stream of commentary, half teasing, half philosophical, about city folk and the evils of fancy cars. By the time we were done, Karen looked less like a corporate shark and more like a woman who'd just survived a tornado. As the sun climbed higher, I invited them both into the house for coffee. Karen hesitated, but Tucker practically dragged her inside, muttering about Christian hospitality. My kitchen was nothing fancy, worn linoleum, a table scratched from years of use, but it was home. I poured 3 mugs, and we sat in awkward silence until Tucker broke it. "So, Karen," he said, leaning back in his chair, "what's a big shot like you doing out here, trampling Jack's corn?" She stared into her coffee, fingers trembling. I wasn't lying about the development. Lux Properties wants to buy up land for a new project. My boss sent me to scout. If I don't deliver, I'm out of a job. "And the Porsche?" I asked. She gave a bitter laugh. "A stupid impulse buy. I thought it'd make me feel powerful. After my husband left, I needed something to hold on to." Tucker snorted. "Power's in the land, girl. Not some shiny toy." I shot him a look, but Karen didn't snap back. Instead, she nodded, like his words had hit a nerve. "Jack," she said quietly, "I'm sorry. I didn't think about what I was doing. I'm so tired of fighting." Her voice cracked, and I saw it again, that raw, human pain I'd glimpsed earlier. I wanted to stay mad, to hold on to my righteous anger, but it was slipping away. "Apology accepted," I said. "But you're still helping me fix that barn." She managed a small smile. "Deal." Tucker clapped his hands, grinning like he'd just brokered world peace. "Now that's settled. Jack, you gonna show her how to drive a tractor? Might do her some good." Karen's eyes widened. "A tractor? Me? Why not?" I said, half joking. "You've already crashed one vehicle today." For the first time, she laughed, a real laugh, not the sharp, defensive one from before. It changed her face, made her look younger, less like a caricature and more like someone who'd just needed a break. That afternoon, I put Karen to work. Not on a tractor, she wasn't ready for that, but hauling lumber and holding beams while I repaired the barn door. Tucker supervised, mostly by telling stories about his youth and sneaking sips from a flask he thought I didn't notice. Karen was clumsy, her hands soft and unused to manual labor, but she didn't complain. By dusk, the barn was patched up enough to function, and we were all covered in sawdust and sweat. As we sat on the porch, watching the sunset turn the fields to fire, Karen spoke up. This place, it's peaceful. I forgot what that feels like. It's hard work, I said. But it's honest. She nodded, then glanced at the camcorder, still on its tripod. What are you going to do with the video? I hadn't decided. Part of me still wanted to humiliate her, to show the world what happened when you messed with a farmer. But another part, the one that had seen her cry, seen her try to make amends, knew it wouldn't feel as good as I'd thought. Before I could answer, Tucker chimed in. Jack, you ought to post it. Call it Karen versus the Harvester. It'll go viral faster than a hog in a mudslide. Karen flinched, but to my surprise, she said, do it. I raised an eyebrow. You serious? She shrugged. I deserve it. Maybe it'll teach me to stop acting like, well, a Karen. I didn't know what to say. This woman, who'd started the day as my enemy, was now sitting on my porch, owning her mistakes. It was a twist I hadn't seen coming, and it left me off balance. That night, after Karen drove off in a rental car and Tucker headed home, I watched the footage. It was all there. The standoff, the crash, the tears. But it wasn't just a story about a city woman getting her comeuppance. It was about two people, both struggling, both human, colliding in a moment of chaos. I didn't post it. Instead, I burned the tape in a barrel behind the barn. Some stories didn't need to be shared. The next morning, I woke to a knock at the door. It was Karen, back in jeans and a flannel shirt, looking like she'd raided a thrift store. I quit my job, she said before I could ask. I'm done with Lux Properties. Done with all of it. What's the plan then? I asked, leaning against the doorframe. She held up a pair of work gloves. Thought I'd start by helping you finish that barn. If you'll have me. I stared at her. This woman who'd gone from villain to what? Ally? Friend? Something in between? Grab a hammer, I said finally. We've got work to do. She grinned, and for the first time, I thought maybe this farm could handle a little more chaos. The days that followed were strange, like a storm had passed, but left the air charged with something new. Karen showed up every morning, her rental car kicking up dust on my drive, her work gloves tucked into the back pocket of her jeans. She wasn't a natural at farm work. Her first attempt at nailing a board ended with a bruised thumb and a string of curses, but she was stubborn. I'd give her that. She'd grit her teeth, shake off the pain, and try again. I didn't know what to make of her. One minute, she was the woman who'd blocked my barn and crashed her Porsche into it. The next, she was hauling lumber and asking me how to tell if corn was ripe. Tucker, of course, had an opinion on everything. She's running from something, he said one evening, leaning on his cane as we watched Karen wrestle with a fence post. City folk don't just quit their fancy jobs to play farmer. Mark my words, Jack, she's got a secret. I shrugged it off. Tucker saw conspiracies in everything, from crop circles to the price of milk. But I couldn't deny Karen was a puzzle. She didn't talk much about her past, just dropped bits and pieces like how her ex-husband had been a big-shot lawyer or how she'd grown up in a small town before chasing the corporate ladder. Each fragment felt like a clue, but I wasn't sure I wanted the whole picture. By the end of the week, the barn was fully repaired, and Karen had learned to swing a hammer without injuring herself. We celebrated with beers on the porch, the three of us, me, Karen, and Tucker, watching fireflies dance over the fields. You're not half bad at this, I said, tipping my bottle toward Karen. She smirked. High praise from Farmer Jack. Tucker cackled. Careful, girl. He don't give compliments easy. Next thing you know, he'll be a skin you to stay. I shot him a glare, but Karen just laughed, her face softened by the glow of the porch light. For a moment, I saw her not as the disaster who'd upended my life, but as someone who fit here, in this quiet corner of the world. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying Tucker's words. A skin you to stay. Was that what I wanted? I'd been alone on this farm for years, ever since Ellie passed. The idea of someone else, especially someone like Karen, stirred up feelings I wasn't ready to face. The next morning, everything changed. I was in the kitchen, brewing coffee, when I heard a car pull up. Not Karen's rental, something louder, with a throaty engine. I stepped onto the porch and froze. A black SUV sat in the drive, and two men in suits were climbing out. One was tall, with slicked back hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The other was shorter, built like a linebacker, carrying a briefcase. Mr. Hensley, the tall one called, striding toward me. I'm Greg Dalton, Lux Properties. This is my associate, Mr. Vance. We need to talk. I crossed my arms. About what? Dalton's smile widened. but it felt like a trap. Your land. We're prepared to make a very generous offer. Not interested, I said, turning back toward the house. Vance spoke up, his voice low and gravelly. You might want to hear us out. Things could get complicated otherwise. I stopped. That a threat? Dalton raised his hands, all innocence. Of course not. Just business. We know about the incident with Ms. Whitmore's car. Quite the spectacle. A video like that could cause problems for you. For her. My stomach lurched. The video. I'd burned it, hadn't I? But then I remembered. The camcorder had been running before I set it up. Had someone else been watching? Before I could respond, Karen's car rolled up, and she stepped out, her face draining of color when she saw the men. Greg, she said, her voice tight. What are you doing here? Dalton's smile didn't waver. Karen, good to see you. We were just discussing your little mishap. Seems you left out some details in your report. She glanced at me, eyes wide with panic. Jack, I can explain. Explain what? I snapped, my patience fraying. You told them about the video? No, she said, stepping closer. I swear I didn't. But there's something I haven't told you. Tucker's warning echoed in my head. She's got a secret. I braced myself. Spit it out. Karen took a deep breath. I didn't quit my job. I was fired. Lux Properties found out I was scouting land without a permit. When I crashed the Porsche, they used it as an excuse to cut me loose. But I didn't tell them about the video. I thought you destroyed it. I stared at her, betrayal burning in my chest. You lied to me. I was ashamed, she whispered. I wanted a fresh start. I thought I could be someone better here. Dalton clapped his hands, breaking the tension. Touching, really. But let's get to the point. Mr. Hensley, sell us your land, and we'll make sure that video never sees the light of day. Refuse, and it's out there along with a lawsuit for property damage and emotional distress. I laughed, bitter and cold. You're bluffing. There is no video. Vance opened his briefcase and pulled out a tablet. He tapped the screen, and there it was, grainy footage of me in the tractor, threatening to flatten the Porsche. Karen's crash played next, followed by her sobbing. The angle was different, higher, like it had been shot from the tree-line. How? I demanded, my voice shaking. Dalton shrugged. Drones are standard for site surveys. You'd be amazed what they catch. Karen stepped forward, her face hardening. Greg, this is low, even for you. Leave Jack out of it. This is my mess. Too late, Dalton said. Your mess is our opportunity. That's when Tucker's truck roared up, kicking up a cloud of dust. He climbed out, shotgun in hand, his grin wider than ever. Well, ain't this a party, he said, leveling the barrel at Dalton. You boys lost. Vance tensed, but Dalton just chuckled. Easy, old man. We're just talking. Talk somewhere else, Tucker growled. Or I'll show you how we settle disputes out here. For a moment, I thought Dalton might push back, but he glanced at Tucker's shotgun and thought better of it. We'll be in touch, Hensley, he said, backing toward the SUV. Think about our offer. They drove off, leaving us in a heavy silence. I turned to Karen. You should go. Her eyes filled with tears. Jack, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Just go, I said, my voice flat. She nodded, climbed into her car, and drove away. Tucker clapped a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, son. Can't trust a snake, no matter how pretty it sheds its skin. But as I watched her taillights fade, I didn't feel right. I felt empty. The next few days were a blur. I threw myself into the harvest, working from dawn to dusk, trying to outrun the anger and hurt. The bank called, reminding me of the loan payment due in a week. Dalton's offer lingered in my mind, tempting despite the strings attached. Then, one morning, I found an envelope taped to my door. Inside was a handwritten note from Karen. Jack, I know I don't deserve your trust, but I'm trying to make this right. Check the news. And please, don't sell. This farm is worth more than their money. Karen. I crumpled the note, ready to toss it, but curiosity got the better of me. I pulled up a local news site on my phone and saw the headline. Lux Properties accused of illegal land scouting practices. The article detailed how an anonymous whistleblower, Karen, no doubt had leaked internal documents exposing the company's strong-arm tactics, including the use of unauthorized drones. By noon, reporters were calling, asking for my side of the story. I didn't answer, but the news spread like wildfire. Lux Properties stock tanked, and Dalton was named in a class action lawsuit. The video, their leverage, was useless, now tainted by their own scandal. I should have felt vindicated, But all I could think about was Karen. She'd risked everything to take them down, knowing it might not win me back. I drove to the motel where she'd been staying, but the clerk said she'd checked out. No forwarding address. Weeks turned into months. I paid off the bank loan with the harvest profits, and the farm thrived. But every time I passed the barn, I saw her hammer in hand, laughing through the dust. I wondered where she was, what she was fighting for now. One spring day, Tucker showed up with a package. "Found this in my mailbox," he said, handing it over. "Got your name on it." Inside was a small clay pot with a single flower, a Karen lily, its petals vibrant red, like her Porsche. A note was tucked beneath. "Jack, I'm starting over in Montana. Found a little farm of my own. This flower reminded me of you, tough, stubborn, beautiful. Thank you for showing me what matters. Karen." I set the pot on my porch, where I could see it every morning. Some days, it made me smile. Others, it stung like hell. She'd come into my life like a wrecking ball, left it better than she found it, and vanished. I'd never know if she'd found peace, but I hoped so. Life went on. The farm grew. Tucker kept meddling, and I kept fighting. But I never forgot here the lesson we'd both learned. Sometimes, the things you think you're fighting for aren't worth the cost. What do you think, folks? Was I right to push Karen away, or should I have given her another chance? Was she a villain, a hero, or something in between? Share your thoughts. Let's hear who's on whose side.